musical fans? Welcome back to my channel. This is OCD Movie Reviews. My name is Brinker, and today I'm going to review the latest musical romantic drama, West Side Story. This movie is directed by the legendary Steven Spielberg, and this movie stars Ansel, Elgort, Ariana DeBose, Rita Romano, Mike Faist, David Alvarez, and introducing Rachel Zegler. This movie is also based on the 1950s Broadway with the same name. Alongside that, this is a remake of the 1960s film with the same name. And basically this movie, if you don't know anything about West Side Story, this movie is basically a modern adaptation of Romeo and Juliet. This movie took place in 1950s New York, where these two rival gang members known as the Jets and the Sharks get into more of a rivalry when two star-crossed lovers named Tony and Maria fall in love. West Side Story has been a huge influence on me. I grew up with the 1960s West Side Story. I thought that movie is a huge classic. But I have not seen the Broadway, so I'm not going to compare this movie to the Broadway. I'm going to compare this more to the 60s film. But when I heard that Steven Spielberg is remaking West Side Story, I honestly don't know what to think. As much as I love Steven Spielberg, I think he's one of the most iconic and influential directors out there. Come on, Jurassic Park, Jaws, Indiana Jones, he's a classic, iconic film director. So, I know he can direct a movie well, but I was really worried to see what he can do with West Side Story until the trailers came along, and I was really pumped for this movie. This is actually probably one of my most anticipated movies of the year with No Way Home, because I was really excited for this film, because the film looks stunning. So, I was really curious to see what Steven Spielberg does with West Side Story. And guys, West Side Story absolutely exceeded my expectations. But it actually exceeded even more, because I gotta say this, guys. Remember when I said in my No Way Home review that, is this film the best movie of the year? And I said there's another film I'm going to review, and that is West Side Story. I honestly think West Side Story is my absolute favorite movie of this entire year. I had a blast with this movie. This movie feels natural, it feels new. It still follows the same story, but Steven Spielberg makes this movie its own thing. And that's what I loved about this new adaptation of West Side Story. It's not a copy and paste like what the 2019's Lion King did. It felt like its own thing. I think the thing that definitely stands out in this movie is the cast. Absolutely, Steven Spielberg knows how to cast actors, because the actors in the movie are absolutely flawless in this movie. Starting from Ansel Elgort as Tony. Now, I know a lot of people are hating on him right now, especially in this film. Some people say it's pretty dull in the film. I honestly don't understand. I know Ansel Elgort is going through things, and there's a lot of personal things that happen. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm talking about his acting in this film. I honestly really loved Ansel Elgort in this film as Tony. He definitely plays a different Tony than the original film, and I can understand why people are hating on him. But I loved Ansel Elgort in this film because his character feels very, very natural. He's not just a person that falls in love with a girl. He's a person that has a pretty bad backstory, which I'm not going to spoil. And I really feel for Tony in this film, and I really think Ansel Elgort does a great job in the film. You can really tell that he doesn't have much vocal training, but I think his voice was really, really good in this film. It is flawless in my opinion. I think his voice is really good. But of course, we gotta talk about the newcomer in this film, Rachel Zegler playing Maria. I loved her in this film. This is basically her first feature debut. She was one of the 300 auditions that Steven Spielberg really loved. So she's probably the most luckiest girl in the world, because she is fantastic as Maria. Honestly, if the Oscars nominate her for Best Actress, I don't blame them, because she needs that nomination, because she is fantastic in the lead role as Maria. Not just her acting is fantastic, which it really was, but her voice is absolutely stunning and beautiful. Her voice is perfect for this movie. Rachel Zegler, you definitely have a future behind you. She's going to be in the new Shazam movie and Snow White. This girl is busy, which I don't blame. She is a great actress, and this is definitely a great start to her career. Speaking of people that I think needs an Oscar nomination, Ariana DeBose as Anita crushes it in this film. Great voice, but the acting stands out. Her acting felt so real in my opinion. I really loved Ariana DeBose's adaptation of Anita in the film. Speaking of Anita, we also get a returning star from the 60s film in this film, Rita Romano. Now, if you don't know who Rita Romano is, she's a fantastic actress. She won so many awards from Oscars, Tony, and all that stuff. She is a legend. She was in Singing in the Rain and also in the 1960s West Side Story, playing the original Anita. It's a real treat for her to come back in this film, going back to her old projects and being in this remake. And she's fantastic in the film. I really don't want to get in depth what her character is. I want you guys to see it for yourself. She is fantastic in this film. She has a great chemistry with Tony in the film, and she also has her own moment in the film where I was literally so happy for her and also feeling in tears because Rita Romano is acting in the film. She's still got it. She's still a great actress. Also, Mike Faist as Riff and David Alvarez as Bernardo. These two are fantastic in this film, especially Bernardo in this film. He is such a badass in this film, but also he's a character that you kind of get what his motivation is. Mike Faist is also great as Riff. He's one of those characters that you kind of love to hate, but you can see why he's like that. And I think his chemistry with Tony was also really good in the film. And his character was basically very broken in the film, and I really like that in this film. But I think the thing that really stands out for me for West Side Story is the direction that Steven Spielberg is going for. The cinematography in this movie is absolutely phenomenal. Just from that opening scene alone, I'm like, I am in for a treat. The film looks fantastic. The production design, it is so convincing. It looks like 1950s New York. The production design is fantastic to look at. And the music in this film, even though it's the exact same music from the original, it still feels natural and new because the voices, the dance sequences, the moments when the musical sequences come in, the execution is so fresh. It's so natural and new. Even though the music is still the same, the music is still fantastic in the film, and the dance choreography is phenomenal in this film. I literally just wanted to stand up in the theater and dance because of how much fun the musical sequences are, and even how emotional the musical sequences are. There are some musical sequences that I literally cried throughout the film. But the musical sequences in the film is fun, it's beautiful, it's emotional. Every single song I find completely flawless. I loved every single song in this film. Even there are some moments that did very differently with the musical sequence, the way it's executed with the story. And I thought that's a really cool change in the film. I think the changes are much more better than the original film. It kind of makes sense for me. And this film made me so emotional towards the third act. And obviously I'm not going to spoil what happens in the film, but this film still makes me emotional, even though I know what's happening, because Steven Spielberg still made this movie so natural and new. Especially the dialogue in this film that felt very different than the 1960s film. I thought the 1960s film was great, don't get me wrong, but I feel like the dialogue in that film gets a bit corny and dated at times. The dialogue in this film felt so new, so natural. It's mostly natural, which is what I really liked about the film. It's not like the exact same lines as the 60s film. It's trying to be its own thing, and I really loved that. And that's what I loved about this film the most. It's its own thing. You don't need to view this as a remake or adaptation. It felt like its own movie. This film still felt like a film with great cinematography, great story. The story was completely flawless. I enjoyed the story throughout. The romance in this film between Tony and Maria is so beautiful to watch. I love their chemistry in this film. It is so fantastic, and you root for them two to be together. You love them two. The love story is fantastic in this film. Even some other love stories between Anita and Bernardo is also really well done in this film. Like, this film just felt like a film, and that's why I would say this movie is my favorite movie of the year, because it felt like a film. No Way Home is the biggest blockbuster of the year, and even though it does feel like a film at times, I feel like West Side Story just felt like you're watching a famous, iconic movie again, because Steven Spielberg is such an iconic director, and this is probably one of his better films that I've seen in a long time. And a big confession, I'm going to confess this. I find this movie very flawless. I don't see one problem with this film. I would say there is a nitpick in this film. There is a moment where the film gets serious and then it translated to a happy song, basically. That's probably the only nitpick I have. The rest, flawless. I love this film from start to finish. And I'll confess something. I might like this a lot more than the 60s film. Even though I love the 60s film so much, this film just felt so different and new and probably executed much more better than the original film. As much as how much I love the original film, I think this movie kind of did it better. This is probably one of the best remakes that came out in a long time. This is definitely one of the better Steven Spielberg films that came out in a long time. Overall, guys, I think West Side Story made my year for me. I love this movie from start to finish. I think the love story is great, the musical sequences are great, the story throughout start to finish is great. I love the differences they made to the original. It felt like its own thing. It doesn't feel like a copy and paste movie like the 2019's Lion King did. It felt like its own thing. The direction is fantastic, the cast is fantastic, especially Rachel Zegler. She needs an Oscar nomination after this film. She's great. The cast, great in this film. West Side Story blew me away. I think this film is definitely going to go in the Oscars, that's for sure. Hopefully this film gets nominated for Best Picture like the original film. I think that will be very fantastic. Overall, West Side Story is fantastic. I find this movie flawless in my opinion. It might be my favorite movie I've seen this year, and I am going to give West Side Story an A+. So guys, that is my review for West Side Story. Let me know what you think of this film in the comments below. Do you like the movie, hate the film, you think it's better than the 60s film? Let me know in the comments below. And what is your favorite movie musical and Steven Spielberg movie of all time? I'll give you 2 questions in this video. Your favorite musical and your favorite Spielberg film. Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you guys follow me on social media links down below. Facebook, Stardust, Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd. Keep contact with me. And make sure you guys subscribe to my channel for my latest movie reviews and movie related content. And have a nice day.